Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Group. I'm Jenny Robertson, one of the hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, and I'm also the founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here today with Ms. Yemaja Jubilee, the soulful poet. She is also an author, an inspirational speaker, and most of all, an energetic spiritual being having a divinely inspired earthly adventure. We'll be talking about the experience of empowering herself as a Black woman. Thank you for being here with me, Yemaja. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you for having me. And I am also looking forward and I'm excited and elated.
And you look so beautiful. I love your colors. So
Thank you so very much, Jenny.
now, you and I have known each other really online. Have we met in person? Because I had this feeling that I was at a meeting in Richmond and you were there. But I think maybe I just feel like I know you, because we've connected so well online. So
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know anything about this fabulous woman, let me tell you a little bit more about her. She's an inspirational speaker, the co-founding director of Cultural Libations, a poet, an author, and a songwriter. She also hosts or co-hosts a number of radio and internet shows. She serves as the community liaison for Martha High, the Goddess of Soul. Her highly successful poetry book, Couldn't Keep It to Myself, was released in 2017. And her upcoming books are Sisters Sitting in the Blessing and Soul to Soul, which she is co-authoring with Martha High. And she'll talk more about that toward the end of our program. But you are one busy woman.
Yes, I am.
And
Yes,
loving life, right?
I love the thrill of staying grounded in each moment.
Mm. So enjoying the moment and not letting any of it just take you off course.
Yes, there are days, I'm human and
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be transparent here.
Mhm.
There are days when my mojo just does not work. Okay. And those are the days when I hug trees, I breathe, and I
Mhm.
pray.
Hug trees, breathe, and pray. Okay, well, we got enough right there that we could end the conversation right now. People will walk away with some really great stuff. But we're not going to do that because you're going to start us off with a poem.
Yes. One of the reasons that I wanted to talk about me, myself, and I and the empowerment is because I consider myself having all those pieces inside of me.
Mhm.
And I have a poem that's called Me, and Me, right?
Love it. Love it.
So I'm going to read it for our viewing audience. Me sits with me to know the inner holy me that connects with thee. Me sits in the quietude of me to touch the essence and the sweetness that flows freely in and out with each inhalation and exhalation of my God-given breath.
Mm.
Breathe. Me sits with me, my darling divine me, to welcome and embrace the inner goddess who wholeheartedly soothes all the feelings of uncertainty and all this mess and all this distress. Breathe. Me sits with me, the beautiful me, to allow the bathing of my unhealed scars.
Mm.
They have to be set free. Me sits with me, the sweetheart me, allowing and showering drops of love to penetrate every cell that makes up every bone, every joint in my body. That's all me. Breathe. Me sets with me, the bold me, to own my big girl voice. Me sets with me, the mother me, letting and allowing me to experience the rhythm and the bliss and the joyful spirit of a child like me. Me. Breathe. Me sits with me, the soul for me, cherishes the lyrics and rhythm embodied in my soul by love beauty, allowing my uniqueness and creativity to continuously clear for me and allow me to see what I need to see. That's me. Me. Me sits with me, the brave me, it gives me courage and compassion, saturated with an angelic heavenly wisdom to inspire, influence, and impact all humanity. That's me. Me sits with me, the beautiful me, embraces my inner beauty, which is then reflected back to me as thee and reflected back to me as we. That's me. Me sets with me, the badass me, recognizes the multifaceted, multi-talented, and magnificent me that's here to sparkle, shimmer, and shine. Because me, the real me, is priceless. The real me is powerful. The real me is infinite. And all the possibilities have been given to me. And they always will be given to me. And the big G will always enlighten and illuminate my mind. And then I can show the divine how grateful and glorious I am for knowing me. My earthly journey continues to be as me.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Yes.
When did you write that? How long ago?
Um, one of the things about the poems that I don't write my poetry, it comes through me.
Right.
And I wrote that, I guess maybe that's maybe about a year old.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And sometimes I don't even remember what I write. Sometimes I don't even remember when I wrote. I had to go back and see what was going on in my life. But they download through me. So to me, it's very spiritual.
Yeah. That was just a fabulous download. And we're here we're going to talk a lot about how you found empowerment. And I'm thinking that the woman who wrote that poem had to be pretty darn full of herself, right? Had to be in that space where you could actually say those things. Were you always that woman?
No, I was not always that woman. In fact, in my book, Couldn't Keep It to Myself, there's a poem that's called Shitty Days. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And for lack of a better word to describe all that was being dumped on me, I felt life was dumping on me. But I was making the choices, and then whatever I think about, I bring about my perception of what it is. I was creating my own bath of shame and guilt and all of that because I did not love myself. I did not love myself. And one of the changing points, and I say this, I wanted to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and I had a lady to tell me because she loved me. I called her and she told me to look, go put yourself in inpatient treatment. And I went into Tennessee Christian Hospital, signed myself in, and that was a turning point for me to come out and learning how to love myself more. And that's been a while back, many
Wow.
years back. Yes.
Wow. Oh man, how blessed you were to have her in your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a big turning point, and you sounded like you started on a journey then of
Yeah.
finding out who you are.
Yeah. And you found it, you said a key word, Jenny,
Mm-hmm.
finding out who me, myself, and I
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
is an internal process. It's an internal quest that we all have to go on if we want to be enlightened and enlarge the perspective from which we live from.
Mm-hmm.
I now live from inside out rather than being reactive from outside in. And it's been years, and I continuously do that on a daily basis. It takes persistence, prayer, practices, and patience.
Mm. Yeah, 4 big P's
Yes.
that are really everything. Those 4 pieces are just key to everything, I think, of just having this peaceful life, this life where we can be out there being who we really are, with regardless of what's coming back at us. That takes a lot of courage too. Would you agree?
Yes, that's why me sits with the courageous me,
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
brave me, the bold me, because courage, a lot of times I've had to do a lot of going and sitting in the quiet and listening to my intuitive self. But the intuitive self and my real self, my holy self, can become covered and marred by external distractions. And what is it like? I've taken the blue pill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I constantly have to do introspection, which expands my perception, going inward. That's zooming in and then zooming out. And that allows me to do that. And I do that on a daily basis. I examine my life.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons I liked your poem so much is because it showed all those different aspects of you and of many of us. All of us have a lot of those pieces, but often I think we can, especially as women, can shut those pieces down and live from just one place. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And we become martyrs. We become people pleasers.
Mhm.
We become what somebody else say we ought to be. We
Yeah.
lose our voice and our whole sense of originality. We give ourselves away in small pieces on a day-to-day basis. And I tell you not that because I'm not aware of it. I tell you because that's what I did. Wanting people to love and like me when the answer was divine love and coming to know that I am enough. I value myself. I accept myself. I know that I'm a beautiful human being with so much to share. That was the first affirmation that I used.
Well, what do you think the first step is? Let's say a woman is watching this and she's like, oh, that sounds wonderful. I don't know where to start. Where would somebody who hasn't even tapped into that yet, who knows that they're giving, I love what you said about giving yourself away a little bit every day or pieces of yourself away every day, because we don't
Yes.
notice it. It chips away until all of a sudden there's nothing left. So what would you say to that woman? Where might she start? What might be her first step?
Well, one of the things that I started doing was getting in tune with my body, because my body if you got headaches, you're constantly stressed, running back and forth, and you're tired, you're emotionally drained, that is a signal that something is not operating from the center of you and from the center of the big G that's in the universe. There are signals that come, there are red flags, little red flags that come. Sometimes it's just a little small thing and you say, oh, that's nothing. Like one of the things that I ignored was my communication with people and listening to all kinds of gossip, being in that type of energy,
Yeah.
and listening to how let someone else define my spirituality when in actuality it was religiosity. When someone tells me what I need to be, when somebody tells you, hey, you're not this and you're not that, it's not about you, it's about them. So you go back and you examine yourself. That's why it's good to just sit down and write down what you believe. I wrote down everything that I was believing in. And as Dr. Phil used to say, how's it working for you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think that, what I was going to say next just left my head for a minute. You talk now, and maybe it'll come back to me. Anything
Well,
else you want to say about that?
yeah, well, it's a process.
Yeah.
Go back to the P's again, because I did not get here overnight. I've been doing this for many, many, many years. And I come from a background of where my family was alcohol and drug addicts. And
Wow.
what helped me, and I say this to people, I went to 12-step groups as another means of discovery. I went to Al-Anon. I still go to Al-Anon. I break my own anonymity because of the fact that was a tool that I had to use because of the background that I came from with all the addiction. And I became an alcohol and drug counselor.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's how I discovered that. So there are discoveries that come in each season of your life. And I feel that the markers, they're stones. And each time that I recognize it, I've gone a little bit further. And just when I think I have it all together, that's when I'm fooling myself and coming from that I point of that me, myself, and I, that ego standpoint.
I know that one. I know that game because, boy,
Yeah.
you'll get done really quick, won't we?
Yes.
Gee, I thought I'd healed that one, but you're going to make it even bigger now. It's going to be bigger.
Yes.
I know now what I wanted to say is that, often I'll hear people say, well, I've been praying about it, or I've been, asking for help. I've been giving it up to the universe, something, but you have to also sit and be quiet and listen.
Yes.
Don't you agree that, and like feel
Yes.
into it, when so many of us just don't take the time to be quiet for even 5 minutes.
The stillness is one of the
Stillness.
greatest tools for teaching or that have taught me, I put it say for me, that have taught me who I am, who I belong to, and what parts that I need to bring back together when I sit and I listen. That's why I hug so many trees.
Mm.
Because a
You're a
tree,
real tree hugger.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
people call themselves that, but that doesn't mean they're actually out there hugging trees.
yeah,
I have seen a picture of you hugging a tree, so I know it's true.
yeah, hugging trees. You create a stillness, you create a relationship with a tree.
Yeah. And
The
it's that connection.
Yeah, and it gives back. There's energy
Mhm.
in the forest. The Japanese call it forest bathing. It's a practice.
I've never heard that.
Yes,
I
yes.
love it.
And so when you go into the forest, I always say, whenever you're near, I hear a symphony of the birds singing in the trees and bringing harmony to my soul. You know,
Mm.
I listen to the sounds.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about why it's important. Because you wanted to talk about, how you found this empowerment. But you also said as a Black woman. So let's talk about women in general, but more specifically, why do you think it's so important for Black women to find that space within themselves?
Well, one of the challenges that I have faced as a Black woman is getting up every day to a racist and white supremacist society.
Mhm.
And the things that I would like to have done, I was held back at certain points in my life because I was Black. All right. And that's a hard realization for us to embrace as women of color, that there are some things that are automatically built there so you will not succeed. And one of the things that helped me to realize my power as a Black woman is to go around people that were powerful as Black women and to see how they did it. Having mentors for a long time, it was Oprah Winfrey and Maya Angelou or Ayanna Van Zant.
Mhm.
So as a Black woman, I had to read about how other Black women had gone through what they have gone through, and they rose to another vibration, they rose to another level. It's important that we own our voice,
Yes.
because ever since history started 401 years ago with people of color, we as Black women have had our wounds used for profit. So I am mindful of that, very much mindful. We as Black women, I won't repeat all the history, but we have gone through so much. So, but I do believe that when you seek and when you ask, as a Black woman, when I come against those obstacles, I ask, I sit, I pray, I breathe, and I went either around it or through it, or I went over it,
Mm.
because I had support.
Yeah.
I had encouraging people. I had people that were where I wanted to be. Not, you cannot empower yourself as a Black woman, because and I say this because a lot of time people are about, I know some of the sisters that I have experienced, they always want to hold me back, because when they see me doing something, they don't support me. I stop hanging with those people.
Right.
And that can be it does not have to be women of color. But as a Black woman, I have found that I had to surround myself with people, no matter what race, color, or anything, or ethnicity, or anything like that, in order for me to be pulled forward, because they knew that I was sincere, transparent, and authentic. And those 12-step group helped me do it. And
Mhm.
I have gone into meetings and I was the only Black person in there, the only one. But I didn't go, because as I came to know, I saw that there was a commonality, and then I got the support that I needed to empower myself. So each one of us has a path and a journey, and we have to find those people that inspire and uplift us. And the book, you talked about Sisters Sitting in the Blessings, that book will be out, and Faith A. Norrell is doing the art for that book.
Mhm.
That's about sisters talking about the pivotal point in their lives where someone has done something to empower them. So even though we've had obstacles, I feel like people have stories to tell and share, like you're doing, I'm doing here, to inspire other people that you can get through this, no matter what your race, your color, and your creed, when you practice living from inside out and believing in the vastness and all the possibilities that are in this universe.
Yeah. Wow. And what's especially beautiful about what you just said is that now you're that woman. You're
Yeah,
that woman that is writing and speaking and creating for other women to model, to emulate, to see, oh, that's possible. Look at what she's doing. How does that feel?
That feels I am on purpose.
Yeah.
That is my purpose. You know, for a long time, I thought purpose was somewhere in La La Land or down the rabbit hole with Alice in the Wonderland, that type of thing. But then, as I have grown spiritually, and as I have learned to live more by exploring the inner terrain of myself, of me, myself, and I have been empowered. And being empowered, it was put on my heart by the divine that I now have to give back.
Mm-hmm.
I now have to share that which I have came through and gone through, so that other women can see. Like when my play came out, Couldn't Keep It to Myself, it was 21 poems and songs that I wrote since I was 16. And the first time that I heard them read out loud and on stage, when we were in a rehearsal at BCU, I cried because I saw my own worth.
Wow.
I saw my own progress. I saw my own value. I saw that I was enough, and I was not back there where I was.
Mm. Yeah, we all need that, don't we? We all need to
Yes.
see those. Or we also need people, I think, who mirror ourselves back to us as well. You know,
Yes.
who reflect who we are back to us and remind us of who we are. Because sometimes we can forget, depending
Yeah.
on what's going on out there.
Yeah. And that's what I do with my poetry.
Mm-hmm.
I remind people with those God-given words. I send a text. Sometimes it's a voice message. I call them downloads from the Big G. Sometimes it's just maybe a couple of lines. Sometimes it's just a voice message saying, well, hello, beloved. How are you today? This is Yemaja Jubilee, and I hope everything goes the way that you need to have it to go, and for you to flow through your day with grace and ease and peace.
And I have been on the receiving end of a couple of those messages, and I will tell you, and it was unexpected because I thought it was in a Facebook Messenger. I thought it was just a message, and all of a sudden I heard your voice, and I was like, oh, it
Yeah.
had that effect on me to just like, oh. And
Yeah.
you have this such loving presence, Yamaja, that you just exude love. So it's so easy to feel loving around you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome.
I graciously receive it.
Yes, good, good. And I think that's something else that we women need to learn to do more of.
Yes.
You know, in the group that we're in right now doing this Facebook Live, every Saturday I do a post giving women an opportunity to share something they're proud of.
Yeah. I could. Yes.
There's over
Yes.
6,000 women in that group. And if we get 10 women
Yes.
talking,
Yes.
that's a lot. And it's
Yes.
something that I know I grew up hearing. It's not polite to talk about yourself or brag, or, you know, you're getting too big for your britches. Who do you think you are, young lady? Those kind of things. And you and I were talking before we went live about how we have to unlearn so many things before we can replace it with something else.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So you also told me that you believe that life is to be lived in full expression, utilizing everything that's unique about you. Why does that matter? Contrast that for me. Talk about what life is like when we're not living from that space, and
Well,
then flip it for me.
yes. Well, it goes back to a place that we were talking about earlier. When you're down the rabbit hole, I know I've gone down the rabbit hole and I have totally forgotten who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have gone into a relationship and repeating a pattern continuously. All right. And staying in there. And then I'm saying, oh, what happened with that? I just did that. Then I go do it again. I just did that. I go do it again. I just did it. But sometimes it took me a long time to learn certain lessons. And when I was doing that, I came forward each time. There are never any mistakes in life. There are no mistakes. And I don't like the word survivor. I don't use it. I survived anything. I thrived.
Yeah.
So you turn it around, as you were saying, and thrive through it, and you work through it. I know I've had to work through those things to come where I am now. That turned everything around But the recognition sometimes, that's why we have to keep zooming in and zooming out, and using the tools to be to be able to live in full expression. You recognize your gifts and your talents and you share them with other people.
Mm-hmm. It's really
And
that simple, isn't it?
yeah, and
Not necessarily easy, but it's a simple concept, isn't it?
yeah, and we make it complicated because of our humanness and our minds and our minds and the iPod, the ego pod play these tricks on us, or one writer calls it having a roommate in your head.
Somebody renting space, right?
Yeah. A roommate in your head, right? Telling you this and this and that. But we can come past that. It's there for a purpose. If we embrace all that is saying and reframe it, use reframing. That's I use that tool all the time.
Well, talk some more about zooming in and zooming out, because I'm fascinated by that concept.
Well, zooming in and zooming out basically comes from, there was a album by Aretha Franklin called Who's Zooming Who? Back in the 80s or 60s, Who's Zooming Who? I even have a poem that I wrote about zooming, all right? And so just like we have Zoom, we own Zoom now, that's how that came to me.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Zoom platform as well as Facebook. But with Zoom, you can zoom things out, you can magnify things, and you can bring them down smaller and smaller till they're no longer a part of you. And that's the way I feel about the lessons that I've had to learn when I recognize it. At first, it's, you're zooming way out. And then when you zoom in, you bring it into a space where you can look at it, you can own it, embrace it, to erase it. So zooming allows me to be able to get a clear perspective of what's going on internally and what's going on out here. Because in the uncertainties in which we live right now, we have to be aware. You can't just go stick your head in the sand of what's happening. But I feel that it's about zooming in with a relationship with that me part of me, that holy part of me, not HOLY and WHOLE, the wholeness of me. So I unapologetically and wholeheartedly embrace that aspect of myself to be able to bring life out in full expression, just to live and to have joy, not happiness. Happiness is a temporary state, and happiness is an external pursuit of external validation of that life is okay with you. Mm-hmm. When you have joy, it comes in from inside. And my mother taught me that about the love that she showed for everybody. My mother was very instrumental in me recognizing what true love was and joy.
Wow. I've thought that for years, this whole idea of you can fake happy, but joy cannot be faked.
No.
Joy is in there and it oozes out. You can't keep it down. It's just, if you watch a little 2-year-old running around, that is pure joy.
Yes.
And so I believe, and how do you feel about this, that we can also be in sadness and joy at the same time?
Yes, because one of the things about, there are points in my life, there have been points where I have not been able to embrace the sadness. And the other side of sadness is joy. Mm-hmm. It's like this one is on this end of the spectrum, and this one is on the joy is here. So when you work through the sadness, to me, that's always a blessing that's in all of that comes up that brings the joy. And then I tell myself, well, why did I make that so complicated? When it was staring me in the face, the sadness comes, but no feeling ever lasts. Feelings come and feelings go, and they are temporary. And then too, our thoughts play a role in the feelings that we have in our body. And if we haven't processed and gone internally, like I was talking about, your past experiences influence. If you constantly going down the road and you look in the back in the rear view mirror, you can't focus on the moment of what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So being in the moment and having that joy that I had a song, let's spread a little joy all over the land. Let's spread a little joy through our hearts and hands. With joy rising, like the morning sun. We'll spread joy till the day is done.
Love it. Love it. One of my favorite authors and speakers and divine inspirations going way back is Wayne Dyer. And I've seen him speak probably, he's left us now, but I think I've seen him speak like 9 times in person. And he used to say, he always said that it's when you live from that space behind us, it's the wake is driving the boat.
Yes, yes.
And I always love that metaphor because, you know, it's coming at you can't steer. If the wake is driving the boat, you can't go where you think you want to go.
Yeah, you cannot go by looking in. One of my friends, KJ Johnson, who is a brand strategist, that's one of the things that she talks about, you know, staying in your lane and marking your brand. She doesn't use the term staying in your lane, but that's how I interpret it. You know, staying in your lanes. And there are lanes, different kinds of lanes that we can stay in. We can stay in the lane of compassion. We can stay in the lane of joy that we are talking about. We can stay in the lane of peace and harmony. You know, sometimes we just drive along in those lanes and not looking behind, because when we start off our day, I start off my day with silence and prayer and meditation. And I set my intention so that I can be what all the divine, the big G, the love beauty would have me to be.
Let me ask you a question then. I've done a lot of work on myself and I've made some huge shifts over the years, and I have at times been called a Pollyanna. And I know who Pollyanna is. I've watched the movies, and what was her huge crime? She saw the good in everything.
Yeah.
And so I said I wanted to have a bumper sticker made up that said Pollyanna got a bad rap.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people ever complain about your joyful nature. You know, why are you always so happy? Why are you always smiling, Yemaja? Don't you ever get upset? I mean, because sometimes it irritates people when you don't jump into their anger with them or into their gossip with them, or just, you know what I mean?
Yes. One of the things that I've come to know for sure, as Oprah would say, I allow people to be where they are, and what they say about me and to me is about them. So I give it right back to them. I give it right back to them. You know, if you have something that you would like to do or pursue, because I used to think, not only did I used to think, but I used to be envy of other people and their success, be envious, but I was doing nothing to propel myself forward other than run my mouth. There were no actions. There were no actions at all. And then I had to come know myself and see how I work toward reaching and visualizing what is the next point that I want in my life. You know, where do I want to go? But I have been called a whole lot of names, Jenny, that I won't even tell you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just one of them. And I feel like people do that because they don't know any better themselves.
That's true.
They don't know any better. And when they don't know, they aren't aware of their own greatness, their own value, and their own worth. And so they project it upon you. Yeah. It's their doubts and their fears. That's the stuff.
It is. And it takes a lot of practice to become like Teflon, you know, to not let it stick to us. Because, you know, as we were talking earlier about, as soon as we start to think, whoa, I think I've handled that issue, I don't think that's going to come up ever again. Somebody may just come along to help us heal even deeper. You know, bless them, right? Those people that show up. And
and one of the things too, I found, like I was saying, there's always more. It's just like it's always more, but more always goes deeper. It took me, I have people that know my Achilles heels. Okay. I have people, especially family people, who just call me every kind of name under the sun. And it took me, I have to tell you, within the last 3 years, I've really fully claimed my boldness, my badass person from inside out, because I own my power with key people in my family that were telling me I was less than and I needed to go somewhere and find myself, you know.
But they were going
And
to define what that looked like, right?
no, then I mean, you know, finding myself I wasn't fitting into the mold that they defined.
Right, right. Yeah.
You know, finding me was to find what they wanted for me, and to just not say anything about. And you know, even in families, if the hardest place for, as an alcohol and drug counselor, a former alcohol and drug counselor, I would talk to people about family and how family will hold you back. But sometimes what I found out for me was I had to create a family of healthy people,
Mm-hmm.
people that gave me feedback in order for me to just kind of move on, and not, you know, those names and what they say I ought to be and how I ought to be and how I ought to do it. You know, they can take it and they can have it. But it takes practice, it takes prayer, it takes a willingness to not stay stuck in that same old belief, as I go back to what I was talking about earlier. Because we each have an individual voice, we each have an individual uniqueness that's waiting for us to just come home to it. Come home, because we got out of it from the time that we took our first cry into the world. We are programmed to leave that uniqueness behind.
I love come home to it, because often we'll say, I'm seeking, I'm searching, I'm looking for, it's already there.
It already is present.
Come home to it. It's just such a, oh, that feels delicious to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Delightful and delicious it is.
Delightful and delicious. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, we could talk for days, you know. So anything else that you want to say? We'll talk about what you're working on in a minute, but around this whole topic of empowerment, any other, because you've shared so much wisdom. Thank you so much. But what else would you like to say before we wrap up today?
Well, one of the things that I would like for our listeners and our viewers to always remember, that gratitude, having gratitude will pave the way. It will open doors. When you appreciate who you are, no matter who you are at this point, you don't have to be perfect. All you have to do is be willing and keep an open mind to zoom in and zoom out, and use taps, tools, attitude, and perception and spirituality. Tools that you learn. I bless my head every single day. I bless the thoughts in my head. I bless the ear that I may hear with the ear behind the ear. I bless the eyes that I may see with the eye behind the ear. And I bless the words of my mouth and the face that I take forward in the world. Each one of us has that special identity. And I got that from Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith about blessing your head, and Ayana Van Zant. You know, I've studied a lot of different people, and I picked up a lot of different practices along the way that I now combine. And the other practice that I want to tell people about besides that one is to take love showers. That's when I bless every part of my body, bless it, talk to it, give thanks for it, the gratitude. Go back constantly to gratitude. If you're in fear, you can't think of anything else, thank God for that moment. Gratitude will bring you out, bring you through, take you around, and it will empower you. That gratitude is one of the most empowering principles that we can practice as women of color, and as women. The totality of gratitude will just lift your spirits. And sometimes I feel like I just want to fly, you know, because of the fact that when I'm wrapped in a blanket and a tapestry of gratitude, my soul likes to soar and dance.
Yes. You know, years ago, do you know the book Simple Abundance by Sarah Brothnick? And she was on the Oprah show. It's been many years ago. And she, you know, in that book, which I still have, and every once in a while I'll pull it out and go through it again, she talked about keeping a gratitude journal. And I started then. I know it's been 20 to 25 years ago. And Oprah Winfrey said that one practice that she had gotten from Sarah Brothnick's book on keeping a daily gratitude journal was the most significant thing she'd ever done in her life. Yes. I had a really good life already. Yes. It made all the difference for her. Yes. And I think for me, what I've noticed over the years of doing that is that there's all the things that I'm grateful for all the time, but then there's the things that I never used to even notice, the little things, just in that moment. And sometimes I feel like I'm just walking around going, thank you,
Yes.
and it just feels, yeah, you just reminded me again how great it feels. And
Yes.
sometimes I struggle to find, I do 10 things every day. Sometimes I struggle to write those last two because I'm looking for something big.
Yeah.
I'm home all the time now. I'm not out there interacting and seeing a whole bunch of people. But man, the way that wind sounds through the trees
Oh,
outside,
yes. Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and again,
I
it's what you
yes.
said before, it's that getting quiet, that
Yes.
stillness that lets us see what's going on around us and feel and hear.
Yeah. And then when you come out into all the distractions, or if you've taken the wrong color pill with everything that's going on, right? I keep reminding the movie The Matrix. You are grounded in thankfulness for whatever comes up. And one of the things that I find for me, that I always thank God for allowing me to wake up, because my mother used to say, it could have been the other way. And then I have two eyes to see.
Mhm.
I can see and I can hear and I can feel, and I have the activity of my limbs, and I wasn't laid out on a cooling board. I got a song that I wrote about that.
Yes, yes. Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank
You're
you. I've
welcome.
appreciated this so much. So before we check out of here, tell us this exciting thing that you're working on with Martha High.
Oh, the book is called Soul to Soul. It's by Martha High, the goddess of soul, and Yemaja Jubilee, beloved, the soulful poet. All right. She is a magnificent artist as well as a performer who sung with James Brown for 32 years. But she also loves to paint. She loves to use the art to express herself. She's very, very good at it. So we were looking for a project to do. And I have to tell you, I woke up with that. I downloaded that idea and I mentioned it to her, and she was all for it. So I have written 12 poems, maybe it's one extra in the book, and they are about empowerment. They are about one poem is about your younger self. It's divided into 4 sections with 3 poems in it and notes to take it at the end. And there will be a journal to accompany it because you'll have some writing prompts. But those poems with Martha High, she was telling me just day before yesterday how that has helped her. She loves the poem. She shared them with someone else, and then I've asked you to participate as a reader to tell me how you felt, because I need feedback on what kind of impressions those poems, the intent of those 12, 13 poems are that empowerment that we started out talking about is to empower women or whomever chooses to read the book from inside out.
Mhm.
From inside out. It's about empowerment and owning aging process. There's a poem called Ode to Age in it. There's a poem about being Christed, which was inspired by my father. That book, I've dedicated this book to my father. He's a minister. He's a pastor. He was a pastor. And my 2 nephews, because they helped me complete a section in the book. But that book will be coming out before the end of the year. And we are in the final stages. And Kim Ely, Kiwi Publishing, is my publisher. She's a great person, always helps me to get things out. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up, because it takes a team to get a book out. You have an
Kim's so
idea,
cool.
but it
Yeah,
does.
yes. Well, I'm honored that you asked me to be a reader, and I will be finishing that up this weekend because
Oh,
I
wonderful.
I wanted, I read some over the last weekend, and then I want to do it when I'm not thinking about other stuff and feeling rushed. So I'm loving it. Thank you. I'm just
Yes.
blessed that
And
you asked me to do that.
one of the things too, I'm also Janelle Harris. You are talking about how to get in contact with me. Janelle Harris is my manager. And one of the things that I'm learning as I go through this process, that you cannot do it alone. And there's always people like Janelle. And I also work with Studio W Buzz out of San Bernardino, California, where William Brown is the CEO. I'm a creative consultant for them. So I'm on some platforms on there as well. And just a whole lot of people. I have a support network who surround me.
Mhm.
and help me to just flourish and move on. So there'll be other things that are going to be coming in February of 2021. There's something coming up. And later on in the year, I have lots of projects that I cannot talk about at this point, but just be on the watch out, because whatever I get involved in, I make sure that it's aligned with my beliefs.
That's so important. Yeah.
Yes.
Where's one place that people can go if they want to see your books? Do you have a website where everything
Yes.
starts from? What is that
Yes.
website?
You can go to Facebook and you Google, I'm saying Google, but put Yemaja Jubilee in. I have Yemaja Jubilee, the author, and then go to Cultural Libations Facebook. That's the performance company that I co-founded with Elroy Boyd III, who is my partner in life as well as in that company.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Okay.
And then you can, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Yemaja. You can find me there. And then I also have a website called lovelightandpositivity.com. You can find my book, Couldn't Keep It to Myself. Here's a cover of it.
I love it. Yeah.
My first book on Amazon.com and at Barnes and Noble. So that's where people can get in touch with me, and I don't mind giving out my telephone number as well as 434-808-2472, or people can messenger me as well, and I do answer.
Thank you. Thank you again. This has been wonderful. And I love just so aligned with everything that you said today. And you've got such wisdom. And I'm so grateful that you've chosen to share it with everyone.
Thank you so very much for having me. It's been my pleasure, as Roy would say. You have blessed my heart and allowed me to continue to express who I am by bringing who I am.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank all of you who joined us for the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Facebook group. For a list of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show topics, well, you can go to On Purpose Woman magazine. This is our last one for this issue. We'll be adding some more. The next issue will be out on November 1st. So go to the onpurposewomanmagazine.com. You can also get all of our interviews by going to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is the On Purpose Woman Global Community. We've got probably 30 more interviews there with amazing women from all walks of life, all kinds of life experiences. And those interviews will inspire you, they'll encourage you, they'll educate you, they'll do anything that you might need to be done. Go ahead, Yemaja.
Yes, there's one thing that I would like to mention as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that, staying on purpose for me has meant in the last month or so is I write articles for the Charlotte Gazette paper, which is my hometown paper. And I am writing a series on growing up Black in Charlotte County. And that has really, as a person of color and as a Black woman, empowered me as well, because I'm speaking my truth as a Black woman. It's a series of 5 articles. It also too will be a podcast that on Storm Talk 365 with Miss Benita Claiborne will be coming soon to that, where I am talking to people to tell their stories of how difficult it was growing up with Jim Crow laws and all the other struggles that we had to face, as well as what we continue to face there. But actually, I'm going back to the 60s and I'm bringing people aboard. So the next article that's coming out is called Light Bright, Almost White, but Not White. So that is one of my endeavors. I wanted to mention that so people can go online to the charlottegazette.com as well and keep up with that series, or watch my Facebook page.
Okay. That's really a full circle moment, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you again. Thank you for sharing with all of us today. I adore you, and I'm so glad you've come into my life. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you in the group.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
I know I'm still out there and I don't see, I don't see the thing that says to end it. Where is it? There we go.